I have a question for you. How do you lead? Think about it for a minute. While we think about words like authentic and transforming, those words tend to be very aspirational, but are they really instructional? Are they really helping you understand how to lead? What I see in the world that I've been working in with leaders across Canada and around the world are groups of leaders that have actually become escape artists. And so today, what we want to do is think about the implications of how we've been developed as leaders. You can't ignore Trump in 2018. It's to your peril as a leader. Because what has he done? It's black, it's white, it's women, it's men, it's country, it's city, it's uneducated, it's super educated, it's rich, it's poor. And there is talk now in the States that this is the time for a third party. And my sense is that this is a time for a third way to think about leadership, to believe that it is more than leaders and followers, because that's what everybody's been taught. You know, that old adage that leaders need followers and followers need leaders. And at this point in society, that's just not going to work anymore. We all need to be leading all the time. And so as we think about what's happening in leadership, we are at a shatter point. What is a shatter point? A shatter point is a moment of no turning back. And I believe that's where we are right now. I believe that the world is in such a place that unless everyone around the world takes ownership of leadership, that we're going to be in some serious trouble. And so this is a moment, this is a propitious moment. And all Canadians and all citizens of the world have an opportunity to create change. And the question is, would you lead if your life depended on it differently? Would you lead differently if it meant your kids and your grandkids and your great-grandkids could actually live a better life? Because to me, that's what's at stake right now. So how can we change? You know, we've talked about these 5 very challenging trends. They're very disturbing in my view. We've talked about different issues that are circling around what leadership is right now in 2018. What is it going to mean to be a 21st century leader? What does that look like? And I believe that we need to lead relationally. Relationally, when we start to think about the 3 key pillars of relational leadership, it really means that you're focusing on others. You're going to start to hear this term called othering. And part of the challenge is we're talking about individuals and how we're viewing individuals is often how we view ourselves. And so when we think about others, it smashes down our own silos. Studies have shown that leadership is attributed to people that are reflective of the people that they work with. So if I'm working with a team of, say, 10 directors, and I'm able to understand their views, and I'm able to reflect that back and create a meaningful work environment and a healthy culture, they will attribute leadership to me. I can't emphasize enough that the future of leadership rests on moving from developing leaders, from holding up a mirror, because that's traditionally how leaders have been developed, isn't it? We need to smash the mirror and open up a window, a panoply, a panorama of every single person that we're working with to understand them. I've given you 3 questions that are prompts that really help you and us try to explore what your philosophy of leadership is. And these 3 questions: what kind of a person do I want to be in the future? How do I want to relate to people in the future? And what is my ethical stance? These are 3 deep questions that I worked with for the last 5 years doing the research, and it really changed who I was as a leader. It's bringing people together who maybe in the previous worlds were adversarial. And so part of your role is to find that calm. Collective team intelligence, that's what it's all about, is being able to harness the power of your team to create, to innovate, to share, and to be able to meet all of the targets that you've got set. The new way of thinking about leadership is to think about reflecting critically. Martin Luther King really exemplifies a change master, and I use Martin Luther King as an example because a lot of people think about Martin Luther King as the firebrand that drove the whole civil rights movement. But in fact, the civil rights movement was largely attributed to Ella Baker's success. Does anybody know who Ella Baker is? I didn't know who Ella Baker was till I started my research. And she was the woman who began registering black people in the South on the voter list. And you think about it, Martin Luther King could have screamed his guts out for decades. But until people were actually registered to vote, nothing would change. And that was the contribution that Ella Baker made to the civil rights movement. And she's largely unsung, isn't she? She wasn't the charismatic, the beautiful speaker that Martin Luther King is, but her contribution was so substantive. And so as you think about your own teams, who's your Ella Baker, right? And who's your Rosa Parks? Rosa Parks was the disruptor. She was the one that took the seat on the bus. You remember that moment where she refused to give up her seat. So you have the firebrand, the disruptor, and the activist. And together they forged a movement. There's 8 different kinds of change that they work with, that you work with every day, right? You think about second order change. We talked about AI today. And that really is a brand new piece of change that is entering your world, something you've never encountered before. And so that's a very different kind of leadership strategy when you're dealing with change in the unknown. I believe that the world needs a different kind of language. I believe that the moment has come when we need to embrace a different kind of leadership. I urge you to be that voice to make the change.